house. Welcome, Sam.
Thank you.
And I told him he needs to just sit here quietly while I talk. While we're waiting for people to stream into our loving room here at Rythmia, welcoming everyone, I want to say that we are coming live from Rythmia. We're at Rythmia today, and I want to tell you a little bit about what's going on. We have Taita Juanito Shandoi here. Really just one of the most profound medicine men that is on the planet today. We're so grateful to have the opportunity to have him here. He's here. We're sold out. Rythmia is open. I want to tell you about before we get into talking to Sam, our digital wizard, I want to tell you about Rythmia being open. Hello, Dorota. Great to see you. It is so easy to come into this country. You can fly in. You don't have to have a PCR test to get into Costa Rica. But once you're here at Rythmia, we give you a highly accurate COVID test so that everybody that comes on property is tested before they come on property. And then we test all the employees. And then everybody is on property, gets temperature checked twice a day, 3 times a day for the employee base. So we're super excited that we have this opportunity to be here pre-COVID. It's a pre-COVID experience. And then you do need to have a COVID test or a PCR test to get back into the United States or into Canada. And guess what? We've got that taken care of. You can do that right here because we're a medically licensed facility. We have a lab on property. You get your test here without having to leave. And it's ready for you when you go to the airport. So everything's handled, easy. Come and check out what we're offering. I know that there is so much beauty here, so much exploration, the exploration of the eternal nature of who you are. So there we go. We got people streaming in. Suzanne, hello. Great to see you. I have to tell you how many people are here this week that watch every week and come in and go, oh my God. And it's so amazing to see the faces of the people who are typing on the chat all the time. So keep typing and come. All right. Now, without further ado, you've been very kind, Sam, to listen to all of that. While I talked, I got to tell you about my brother and our guest today, Samuel Austin, who is, I'm going to read this. Are you ready? He didn't write this. He had someone write it for him. He said, Samuel Austin is a digital wizard. Indeed, he is. I know this about him. Who through his platform, Live, Learn, Evolve, that's livelearnevolve.com, right? And SamuelAustinDesign.com. You can check out his work. He is a wonderful, wonderful servant of plant medicine, of humanity, and is interested in expressing his creativity and technological expertise for the betterment of humanity and of nature. So we got a cool dude sitting with us today. So Samuel Austin, welcome.
Thanks for having me, mate.
Yeah. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. So, one of the things, I want to give it a shout out to Tornado Joe. Did the drugs wear off from last week? What? Was I on drugs last week? Yes. Apparently I was. Kesta, hello. Kristen, hello. Giovanni, what's up, buddy? Gio. All right. So Gio's in the house. So glad that you're here. Listen, today, I was at an event with Sam, and we sat there and talked, and it was just like boom, boom, boom. Our conversation was unfolding in so many wonderful ways. Yeah. So the first thing I want to ask Sam, I wanted to ask you about your spiritual awakening, your journey of awakening, because this moment of germination. I know there are probably many moments of germination along your path, but the one that just speaks to you or came to your mind, that there was something, you were awakened, and that journey from the moment of, oh, I see something possible, to you transforming your life. Will you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, okay. Well, the one that comes to mind, because there are many, but the one that immediately comes up as you're talking about that is just being super burnt out from a career where I was like flying around the world a lot with DJs, filming their tour videos, and like getting a real insight into like the peak, I'd say, of modern hedonism. So like, DJs, parties, flying around, private jets, all that kind of jazz. And on the way back in the airport one day, I was totally burnt out, and I was having lots of comments of people saying how I had the ideal lifestyle, you know, traveling and seeing all this stuff. But at the time I wasn't feeling it. I was like not in that zone, you know. It was a lot. I was seeing a lot of like behind the veil of like this false.
I want you to speak to them, because
okay,
yeah, they're right there. So
no worries. And yeah, like on the way back in the airport, I was actually flying, and I just saw like basically the power of now, Eckhart Tolle, just on the side. And I don't know, I'd never read a book like that before, but it called to me. Picked it up, got on the next flight, read it, and yeah, it shifted something super profound in me. I was like, oh, what? Like the present moment. What do you mean by the present moment? Like I thought presence, I'm always present, aren't I? And then something like shifted, like a looking at my hands moment of like, oh shit, like I'm alive, you know? And like from there, I just sort of tumbled down the rabbit hole of exploring all this kind of stuff. So it led to a deep seeking further into what life is, what consciousness is, what is awareness. And at the same time, trying to integrate that into my life and realizing that there's dysresonance in my current lifestyle. And so I had to go back and start shifting things. And then that involved lots of, I guess I was fortunate enough to travel more, but more backpacking, more going off the beaten track, meditating, yoga, all that kind of jazz, you know. It's
so interesting that you said that you were at a point of exhaustion.
Yeah.
And something was able to come through.
Yeah.
We say that a lot here, right? Like a lot of times people come into the medicine or come into our integration classes after the ceremony the night before, and they're hungry, they're tired, they're exhausted, they're frustrated, they're sad, they're angry, they're anxiety, right? All this stuff. And we go, are you feeling any of these things? They're like, yeah, I'm feeling awful. We're like, it's perfect, right? And they're like, what do you mean it's perfect? It's because when we are at that point of exhaustion, all of our defenses, right? Do you feel that it was that moment that maybe you were exhausted enough that you could actually receive something?
Yeah, I felt like it was a message.
Right?
It was an ideal time for me to find that book and totally shift everything. And that's how I feel like everyone's being guided.
Yes.
All the time.
Yes.
But we just have to be in a position. In that state, probably I was too worn out to be in the mental rat race at the time because I was exhausted. And that created an opening for me to receive the actual messages that are always being given to us. Yeah.
Always being given to us. I love that. It is, the broadcast is always being sent. I think of it like, radio waves. Right? There's that old philosophical chestnut. If a tree falls in the woods and no one's there, does it make a noise? And I would say that the metaphysician would say no. It doesn't make a noise because sound requires a receiver. And if it's not realized, it's not made real. Yeah, right? Absolutely. Yeah. So the infinite is constantly broadcasting brilliance and intelligence and beauty and downloads and insights and revelations. And are we open enough to receive it?
Absolutely.
And that's why being exhausted, tired, hungry, angry, lonely, all of that stuff is the moment when we can let the light in. Yeah. Yeah, it totally breaks you down. I hear what you're saying. Yeah, because I was in that journey. I was also seeking exterior, like the exterior, through exterior things all the time. And it was only when I surrendered that motivation to look outwards, then I could shift into receptivity, an orientation of, okay, now let's life come to me. What am I actually looking for? Yes.
And that came up, especially in, I'd say, the shift, not just through Power of Now, but also mushrooms, because the first time I took mushrooms, it was like, oh, wow, nature, it's in the ground already. I ate it. It taught me about nature. I was looking at leaves and being like, they're not trying to do anything. They're just simply being. And I was like, oh, I can do that too. And then it dipped me into the source. I was like, this is what I'm looking for. It's what I am now. And so it just all started from that.
I love that. I want to take a second and give a shout out to Mia and Petra Petra, are you in Switzerland? I can't remember. Bruce, hey, Suzanne, what's up? Power of Now is amazing. Brooke, thank you. Janelle, thank you. I want to ask you about Eckhart Tolle. Do you still that was a seminal moment, something that you read that changed your life? Do you still connect with his teachings?
I haven't gone to his teachings that recently. I still did, especially a book called Silence Speaks, because it's a very non-dual pointers. But no, I shift between lots of different teachers and whatever, because they come at different times. To me, it's seasonal. I needed presence at that time. Other times I've gone down more like deeper philosophical stuff. Other times I'm just like sitting with the tree physically.
Zhang is asking, have you had any encounters with spirits?
Yes.
Would you share?
In medicine, yeah.
In medicine,
yeah.
Okay. Zhang, are you asking about in medicine or just in general? That would be good to know. But tell us about your encounters with spirits in medicine.
In medicine, it's been ancestors, actually. So like under the influence of the plant medicine, out by the fire, intuitively talking to the fire and like saying thank you and like giving stuff to the fire that I wasn't serving me anymore and like letting it burn. And then I had ancestral spirits appearing each side of the fire, like the women on the left, the men on the right, and it was infinite, going all the way back like a mirror on two sides. And also my future ancestors were behind me, but I wasn't allowed to turn and see. And then I looked to them and they were like saying thank you and bowing and like dancing. It was one of the most profound experiences on medicine. Yeah.
Were you there? And there was no fear. It wasn't like it was like a peaceful. Because a lot of times, like I'm thinking, I haven't. Zhang is saying specifically entities that aren't nice.
Yeah, as well. Yeah.
You know, I was talking to somebody about this today, Zhang. Somebody was asking about demons, and I think you'll dig this too, because on Sam's website there was a really cool movie called Beings of Frequency.
Yes,
and I really loved that.
So good.
I watched it, and so I'm thinking of frequency and vibration. What I was sharing. So somebody's going in a ceremony tonight. I was having a conversation with them at breakfast, and they said, "I'm worried about demons. I'm worried about entities, like what Zhang is saying, not so nice." And I hope I'm saying your name right, man. Does that look like Zhang? Zhang, not Zhang. Zhang. Sorry, Zhang. And I said, okay, here's what me as a spiritual practitioner, here's what I know. There's one source, there's one power, there's one life. It is the life of God, it is the divine life. And that is all there is. There's not two powers. There's one power. And that's first law of thermodynamics. Energy is neither created nor destroyed, but transferred or conveyed into various forms. Now, that energy has to be a very high vibrational frequency to contain all possibility, infinite potentiality. It is the highest vibration frequency. We know that everything is frequency and vibration. We know E equals MC squared, that energy becomes matter at a certain lower vibrational frequency when it slows its vibration. But nothing in the world, in the universe, is still. According to quantum physics, right? Not even at the super, super, super frozen temperatures, there's still quantum movement there. So, Zhang, my idea of demons are just lower frequency, lower vibratory frequencies of the one source, right? So it's like, even take hot or cold, take light and dark. Darkness isn't there's only light. There's just less light.
Absence of light.
Yeah. There's only heat. There's just less heat. Yeah. Right. So it's all an expression of heat. Even though we have these polar opposites, there is hot and cold, there is light and dark, but there's a singularity in it. So in the same way, entities are just an expression on the continuum of the singular source. So it really is all good, all God, one source, one power. And
yeah, it is. In my experience, they just tend to have their orientation is inverted because they're lost. So they're anchoring into darkness, or they're going away from light. It's a fear-based mentality. So their orientation, rather than like a fly going to the light or like us looking for love, they orient the other way. So they're actually lost, but they're really looking for the light. Because in my experience, when I've seen a shadow entity come to me in ceremony, which has happened, I just instantly, there was fear and it didn't feel good. And it was the first time I was interacting with a being that did not feel good. Like energetically, I could feel the vibration was not right. But then I asked the being, are you in the love and the light? Like, are you here in service to the source? And it like this, like crawled, like ran out of the room. And so it couldn't felt like I was showing it love by asking that question.
Yes.
And it couldn't stay there, it had to leave.
Yes.
And so the demons can only exist in the absence of love. Like when fear manifests, they manifest. And so then they're actually teachers.
This is the truth of how we can say that we are protected, guided, and girded. Like, and it's pronounced Zoom. Is that right? Zoom? Zoom. Thank you. So what Zoom was saying is these beings exist, but as your experience and what my experience is I align myself with the one source, and that love is the protector. I always say to myself, I am guided by an infinite intelligence. I am guarded by an infinite love, and I am sourced by an infinite power.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't mean to be like arrogant or containing hubris by any means, but but I do say I am of the light, and nothing can hurt, harm, or endanger me, nor nay come near my dwelling. Right? There's a sort of protection that we wrap ourselves in, and it's love. And you showed that entity love.
Mm-hmm. And like you say, the words you're using there, if you're not feeling it in that moment, the words are like spells. We spell into the world. So when we speak them, we can call in that energy. Like right now, if someone says that you're saying, "Oh, I'm the infinite," I'm connected to the infinite, but someone doesn't feel it. If you say those words and you really like sort of surrender into it, you can anchor yourself into that vibration. And so I see those affirmations as useful as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Someone asked you a question, Mia. Sam, when you say ancestors, do you mean family members who you knew or not?
In that experience, it was everything was sort of the ancestors were shape-shifting between my British sort of like German background. And so they looked like English and my grandparents and their grandparents going back. But then it would also shift into like indigenous, shamanic, cavemen, Mexican, like just all different types, and even sort of animal beings and different colors and everything. So it was like all ancestors. It was also showing me like, yes, these are ancestors, and everything's ancestors, no matter the skin color or even the dimension, or the levels of being, It was big.
I like that when you told that story, you said that you could see your future ancestors.
Yeah, I knew they were there.
Or you knew they were there.
I wasn't allowed to look.
And I remember being in Ghana with Reverend Michael, and we went to Cape Cove, which was a very famous, like 250 years of slave trade. Like most of the slaves that went into the United States came out of Cape Cove. It was just a huge settlement, and we're in the dungeons. There's a Catholic church on top and the dungeons below.
Right.
We're in these dungeons. The energy of like hundreds of years of men and women being trafficked in this awful way, right? Like the story. I don't want to take too much time, but them getting there, you feel this energy. And we're in there, and Reverend Michael did a beautiful meditation, and he started by saying, "Think of the men and women that were in this room," and we could see on the floor. I'll tell you this part. There was a section of it where you could see the bricks, but the rest of it looked like it was covered in dirt.
Right.
And the guy said, "That's not dirt. That's hundreds of years of human feces that have been, reduced to dirt." But they literally were up to their knees in feces, and it was just right. So you're in this, and you feel every picture I took there. I was like just. So Reverend Michael does this meditation. He goes, "Think of the men and women in this cell, living their best lives. Don't think of them as slaves. Don't think of them as impoverished. Don't think of them as less than. Think of them living their best lives. See them living marriages and birth of children and family and harvesting, and see them living, running free, and know that you standing here are answered prayer. You are their answered prayer, their prayer for freedom, their prayer for liberation. And then see your progeny, whether it's your specific generational genetic expression, or whether it's, just another generation. It's not your bloodline. But see the next generation as your answered prayer. Know that they are our answered prayer. And so this sort of connection, generational connection, which you so beautifully articulated in your vision, like I knew I could see this, I could see and then obviously you're a link in that chain of that progression going from your ancestors to the front. So it just reminded me of that. Like,
no, that's beautiful. That's beautiful.
And I think this is so important for us to locate ourselves in that, right? Like even when things look so dire and bad sometimes, that when we pray, when we hold this idea of a world that works for the best and highest good, a world where everybody has enough to eat, a world where everybody has a place to stay, a world where people don't get hands outs, but they get a hand up, right? That we're helping people to lift themselves. That's going to occur. We need to hold that vision and know that the next generations will be our answered prayer.
Yeah, I definitely feel you there. Yeah, community, caring, getting into this vibe, absolutely essential, especially in a time like this.
Yes.
When community is sort of enforced in some ways into isolation. And so we're shifting into like digital communities like this here with, 50 people online, and new opportunities for us to connect and collaborate in different ways,
I want to tell you, thank you, Kristen and Mia and Rhett and Indigo, Bruce, thank you, Matt. Hey, Matt, good to see you, man. But Rhett has this question. I think it'll be a great question to lead into talking about the film. So Rhett's question, how does each of you feel about the impact that doing ayahuasca has had on you, and how do you feel it changed your perception of life? Well, before you answer that, I just have to say Sam is a filmmaker, and he and his good buddy Cash have made a film about Rythmia, about their experience at Rythmia, called Awakening the Soul. It's beautiful. It's going to be out soon. But that's a great kind of lead into that question.
Yeah, definitely, because it's all interconnected. The impact that doing ayahuasca had on me. Well, I came to Rythmia originally from an invitation to create some film, a short film, actually. I'd always felt called to the medicine, but I said I'd wait till the invitation comes. And then I got an email saying, come. Another like open to receptivity, I feel like, being called into it. So I came here and dived in and thought, well, I'll just make like a journalistic view of what actually happens, and thought like I would have this interview with the medicine that would be like me, and because people always say mother, me and mother will have an interview, and that would be super interesting because no one's ever interviewed a physical being, have they? Well, they have, but like maybe not on film. And then I had all this list of questions, and then when I went to the medicine, it just said, nah, like stuff your questions. This is all philosophical stuff. We're going to go to the root of your issues. And so it just took me straight to all the interpersonal stuff that I need to figure out. It didn't care like about my questions on like, are there beings on other planets, and all the stuff that I wanted to ask nature. And then, and because I was there for the film, I was saying, well, how do you want me to film you in the documentary? Like, how am I supposed to show ayahuasca in a film? If I film people vomiting, throwing up, laughing, giggling on a mat in a dark room, it doesn't look inviting to everyone. And it's not an accurate representation of what's happening. But at the same time, how do I film then the visions? I can't show the visions. Maybe I could get an animator. Maybe I could work on something myself and try and show stuff. But it's so rudimentary to even attempt to try and do that kind of 3D flattening of what is essentially a 4 or 5 dimensional cinematic show. It's just insane. It can't be done. So anyway, I said that, and she just kept showing me visions of me actually talking on camera, of me teaching yoga, of me like talking at bloody conferences and strange stuff. And I was like, no, you're not understanding me. Like, how do you want me to show you? And eventually I got the message of her saying, like, you need to step in front of camera too. So then I started talking about my experiences, and the film shifted from being just about the personal journey of Cash and Rythmia, and also intertwined me into it as well. And then following that, how it impacted my life, it was way beyond the 4 days at Rythmia. Like when the medicine was in me to create the film, Awakening the Soul, I had to sort out every aspect of my life that seemed to be irrelevant to the film, but parts of the movie would not work until I figured them out. So monitors would break, hard drives would break, software would not work, just stuff that was totally illogical. Like it didn't make sense. I just bought a brand new monitor. How does it not work? Stuff would go wrong that made no sense. And I've been using tech for
You're a techie guy.
years.
He's a techie guy.
So it didn't make any sense. And then every time I went and sorted out some interpersonal thing that my intuition was calling me to go do, the technology would fix itself out of nowhere. And I know it sounds nuts, but to me, it just kept saying, this is still the medicine working the whole time. It's like, you really want to make a film about medicine? You better can show up in every possible aspect.
Yes.
So it was a year of really hard stuff. And now I could even make a documentary about making the documentary, because there's just so much synchronistic stuff and divine timing in there. Yeah.
I love it. It's very Shakespearean. A documentary about making a documentary. A docu.
It's a rabbit hole. Yeah.
I love it. I want to say that my experience as well has been, I consider, let's see, here I'll tell you, I had a really great insight. Who asked that question again? It was Rhett. So Rhett, I'll tell you, I had a vision at home in meditation a couple months after my last ceremony. It's been a few months because I've been away. And I saw all these waterfalls. They were like Niagara Falls. Like each one was like a Niagara Fall, right? This huge waterfall. And they were like, all of them lined up, and it was like in a half moon, right? Circle, semicircle.
Okay.
And they were all converging into one giant river, and it was washing over me. And I asked what that was, and it was like, those are all the intentions that you've set in ceremony. And they're still working. They're still flowing over you, right? Just like you said, the documentary was the journey outside of and we say that here too, that being in ceremony is only 50%. It's the integration. It's how you embody all of this, right? And that's bringing awareness to our everyday life. And so that's kind of the part of, for me, how ayahuasca has impacted my life, is it's brought a level of intentionality to my life. It's brought a level of reflexive self-awareness. But more than that, it allowed me to see, because there are people that see this stuff without DMT. Like you talk to Michael Beckwith, or Sue Morter, or there's lots of people that astro travel. They're like, I'm out there every night. I don't know, like that's not me. So it allowed me to see other dimensions that I have not allowed myself to see. It's not that I can't. It's not that you can't. It's that, or anyone. It's that we're only limited by limited perception. The only thing that limits the flow of the divine is our own myopathy, our own narrowing of our aperture, our channel, that's the only thing that can limit God. And then it's not limiting God or the divine, it's just limiting its flow through us. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so that's what, for me, that like, I got to see things and realize that there are these standing light waves of divine intelligence all around us, and that even when I can't see them, they're there, and that my body, my pineal gland and pituitary gland and endocrine system are perfectly designed to metabolize that vibrational frequency, bypassing my analytical mind, right? It's not about understanding. It's not about knowing. It's not about thinking. It's about a deep knowing. That's really the biblical phrase, peace beyond human understanding. Like that, beyond our ability to think or understand, there's just a rock bottom fundamental peace. That's what came for me in ayahuasca. And is it that our lives are perfect and there's never any problems because we drink ayahuasca? No.
No.
That's not
I actually think that the challenges increase exponentially, but my capacity to deal with them also increases.
Yes.
And get more subtle. It doesn't mean they're necessarily bigger, but they're more subtle things.
Yes.
And so if I say, if I'm drinking more medicine, it doesn't mean challenges stop. No, of course not. They come. But my nervous system has been able to expand to allow more of life in, which then presents more opportunities for evolution to come in, which would include things like maybe allowing yourself to, perceive more subtle dimensions of reality, in terms of energetically feeling into people, having more lucid dreams, all that kind of thing. I feel like these are, like you say, other people can do it without drinking the medicine. The medicine's just like a fast track into it.
Yes.
If you meditate in a cave for long enough, DMT is endogenous, so it's going to activate, and then you're going to have these experiences. But not everyone has got 10 days to sit in a cave to activate it. So you can come here and do it in a week.
It's really true. Like that, what happens here in a week is freaking amazing.
Yeah.
Freaking amazing. I consider ayahuasca to be one of my spiritual tools in my spiritual gig bag, right? There's meditation, there's breath work, there's movement. Huge movement is a huge spiritual practice. So taking care of the body temple, diet and nutrition, sacred service. Right? We've got to serve. Go out and be of service in some way in your community, volunteer somewhere, be involved in your church, in your spiritual center, volunteer, do something in community. It's an amazing spiritual practice. Sacred study. We've got to read. We've got to go to retreats. We've got to go to seminars. We've got to be connected with people. We've got to be in sacred circles, whatever it is, sacred study. So my spiritual tools are and plant medicine, ayahuasca, iboga, mushrooms, rapé, tobacco, right?
Yes.
Wachuma. Now, those are all, even ketamine. I did a meditation. Ketamine meditation. Right? Cool. Meditation, baby.
You're on the edge. You're on the frontier of exploring consciousness.
I am a cosmonaut.
Psychological nomad.
I like that. Did you just come up with that?
Nah.
Okay.
That's what it's in the bank.
That was really good. So so plant medicine is one of those tools.
Yeah. For me, it's like on the spectrum of nature too.
Yes.
Like I have this thing of like, I recently had a friend who was guiding me a lot, and he said, look, here's my challenge to you is to go into nature and sit for 1 hour, not meditating, just observing, and go to the same spot every day. Like choose a spot that resonates, go there and learn about the nature. And if you go there every day, even at different times a day, you learn about the birds that come, the animals, the insects, the seasons, the wind, the trees.
That's
everything.
Beautiful, man.
And then you start to notice the bird calls and everything. And as you do that, you're connecting again with the source, but in a very organic way. And so it was another way of getting to the same thing that the medicine's teaching us, that breath is life, that life is here, it's not elsewhere, and to get out of the mind and into the body.
That's so beautiful.
And so this is another sort of tool, but it's also not a tool. It's like a technique of no technique. It's like just sitting.
Do you know who George Washington Carver is?
I don't know.
George Washington Carver is an Black American biologist, late 1800s, really early 1900s. He invented peanut butter. And during World War II, so he was born in the late 1800s and kind of came up. But again, can you imagine 30s and 40s in the States teaching as a PhD biologist, right? Like very rare for a Black teacher, biology teacher.
Right.
Well, he there's a great book called The Man Who Talked to Flowers. It's a little book about his life. And he said, if you sit with nature long enough, it will reveal all of its secrets to you. And he said that he didn't think about anything, but the peanut revealed its secret. And he also, during World War II, was key to finding all sorts of minerals that were instrumental in the war project in places where nobody could find them, just because he was walking. And he said, nature just revealed itself to me through meditation. So, but it just backs up what you're saying.
There's also many like sort of Zen sayings on that, which is like we're looking for the thing in the thousand things.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking externally for all these different ways to try and find ourselves, but really what we're looking for is actually the thousand things to come and validate us. So if we sit still, nature will come and validate you where you are as life. But we have to get still.
I gotta go sit in nature. I'm sorry.
See you later. We're done.
This is so beautiful, man. It's really beautiful.
Yeah, it's a good one, because that's the thing. I mean, all these teachings. I mean, we can talk because we're esoteric seekers. I know you are.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we read about the Kabbalion, Hermetic, esoteric stuff at cult. We love Egyptian stuff, and we can go into all that.
Right.
But ultimately, if we're talking about healing, connecting to source, connecting to our higher power, our higher selves, and to move with purpose and meaning, this is all here in the moment. It's all available all the time. And that sort of thing of just sitting is also available all the time.
Yes.
It's just like, can we get still and silent enough to do it? And plant medicine is one way that takes us into that.
I want to ask you this really quickly, but before I want to give it a shout out to my sister, Crystal Haywood. What's up, girl? Okay. Crystal, love you. We used to sing in choir together. And she has a voice. What? Okay. Fractals. All right. Just like we were talking about staying in nature, right? Being in nature.
Fractals, yeah.
Right, so I was having another interview on this show and talking about fractals and what the I can't remember his name. He was such a nice guy. We were talking about the fact that all of the fractal mathematical representations in nature are repeated within us. Like take a tree, turn it upside down, it looks like the pulmonary lungs.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the veins in your hand and you're flying in a plane and you look over a desert and see the alluvial fan of a river system, looks like the veins in our hands, right?
Yeah.
That we have all of these, the same patterns in the leaves and the trees and the earth are repeated in us. And as we just sit or walk in nature, there's an automatic harmonization that occurs between the patterns with us and the patterns in the nature, which reminded me of what you were sharing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I hear you. If you just look at them, because it has information in it.
Yes.
It has ancient wisdom. This is the source.
Yes.
The wind speaks, the birds speak, the trees talk. They just don't talk linguistically in a syntax that we have to hear a voice in our heads. That would be weird if a tree just started talking. I mean, it does on medicine. Right. But like in the sober world, it comes to you through intuition.
Yes.
Inner tuition. It comes through in spirit, being in spirit, in the spirit. Like, so it arises from the inner wellspring. We don't find it elsewhere. We can look in 1,000 books, and that's entertaining to see how other people interpret and talk about it and lean us back to it. But this is the source. And with fractals, I love fractals.
Yeah, tell me more.
But I was thinking, I had the conversation the other day because I've got friends who are having a deep conversation. And he loves to talk about philosophical concepts and go deeper and deeper into abstraction. And I struggle with layering more and more concepts and philosophies on top of each other. I can do it, but it's not energetically efficient for me to communicate in that way. I prefer to bring people back to the source. I don't know, because that's what works for me. And so I was thinking of it in a fractal, and we realized that like he's more interested in where the fractal's going, the 1,000 things that keeps multiplying and splitting and splitting and splitting off. But I was sort of more interested in the source of the fractal, the thing which generates the fractal, and coming back to that. And so it's not that any of them's wrong. We can do the mental conceptualization, the exploring of life and all the ways in which it manifests through infinity and infinite manifestations. But ultimately, if we're doing that without the connection to the source, the breath, then we've got a fractal that's just leaking out. You see, and then we're going to get burnt out. But if we can just connect with the source and then use our minds as a tool to explore, then we're connected with the source at the same time. And then the mind's just a tool for us to express spirit. It's like, otherwise you're like a tree eating its own apples kind of thing, you know?
That sounds nasty.
It's just like your mind like feeding on itself kind of thing, you know, with its own thoughts rather than just like, I don't know. I don't know if that makes sense. But
I think the tree eating its own apples, I was like, if I could eat my own apples, I wouldn't be here right now. I think about it with dogs. Like, if I could do that, you would never see me. Where's JJ? I don't know. Okay. All right. But this idea that you're talking about of, I totally identify with your friend, right? Because I always called it my own Baroque or Rococo kind of expression, right? I love the ornamentation and all the structure, right? Love it. I get into it, right? But I also love something like the way Jerry speaks, like just so simple. And I like both.
Yes.
Like everything in my life, I like both.
Yeah.
But I do appreciate that bringing it down to the source, bringing it down to that thing that's consistent in all of those expressions, because they're all stemming from one thing. I'm with you.
Because you're connecting to the source already. Like we just did a prayer before we started this.
Yes.
So it's connecting to the source, and then we're diving in.
Yes.
It's just that, like, if in a seasonal point in your life you've forgotten about the source, it's just to come to remind us, because the concept. Otherwise, we're in duality all the time. We've forgotten about the oneness. So we can be multidimensional and be like anchored in both.
And I would say we're always connected, even when we don't realize it.
We are.
So the prayer is evoking the awareness.
Yeah.
Not invoking, but evoking.
Yeah. No.
Just from within.
Absolutely.
I know we're on the same page.
Yeah. No. I think the mind just blinds the heart, kind of thing.
Absolutely.
You know? And so it's that, like, it's already always there. It just gets veiled, and then we're coming back to. That's why it's remembering. I feel like.
Yes.
This whole thing is just remembering.
We say in at Agape and in New Thought that prayer lifts the mind above confusion. Right? That's the whole point. This is what you were just talking about. The mind blinds the heart. So we're lifting the mind above the confusion of this, that this is real, and seeing reality with the capital R, that which is true, that which is eternal, that which is unchanging. I want to dive here, though, because there's a great question from Tornado Joe. Is math the source of fractals? What do you have a response to that?
I don't know too much about the mathematics of fractals, no.
I mean, math is the language of fractals.
It seems to be the language of fractals and
That's
language of nature. You know, we're not like, it's not like man is inventing mathematics, it seems like. It's more discovering that which already exists. Correct.
I would agree with that. I'm no expert on it either, but Joe, to answer your question, I mean, fractals are mathematical representations, right?
Yes.
But math isn't the source of it. And I'm not sure about this. We're kind of riffing on it now.
Yeah, it makes sense about what you said earlier, where, you know, the fractals in nature are a harmonizing pattern that then brings us into harmony.
Right.
I can imagine, like, looking at the fractals, being mathematic, us being part of it, that if we're connecting with that, we're connecting with the information, which is the mathematics, you know, and it's harmonizing our patterns just by being with it. You know, I have a vision of that, but I can't explain it.
Yes. Okay. So he's saying expressions like the golden ratio. I don't know. Yeah, language. I mean, basically, math isn't the source. I think the word that confused us was source, right? Fractals are a mathematical representation, and math is the language, all of which is intending to somehow describe the world. Describe reality, right? And it's always a sign. It's the map for the terrain. That's why we're having so much trouble talking about it.
Yeah,
because the map is not the terrain. The map is a map of the terrain. It's a good representation of it, but it's not the thing itself.
No, the moment we even talk about it, we've taken something which is inherently infinite and we've reduced it into a finite thing. And because our nervous system is like this, you know, monkey's nervous system within an infinite universe, it can't perceive the whole thing because it's within it. Right. So it can't wrap its nervous system around it to comprehend it. To me, this life is more about appreciation. It's more about surrender. It's more about just appreciating and seeing rather than trying to understand it. But then the weird thing about understand is, like, in the English thing, for me, understanding, we talk about knowing. And understand is to stand under the language. So if we stand under the words that we're talking about now and feel what's underneath, then we come into a felt knowing. And so that's also understanding. There's just a different way of looking at it.
I'm thinking that is just the perfect place to put a period on this. I mean, just because it really is the idea that I just love what you said, that this is more about, not so much about understanding, but about appreciating. And that's such, I mean, in Buddhism, it's how can I open up gently to what's so?
Mm-hmm.
How can I just not reject anything,
Uh-huh.
not go into anything, not get attached, not get cooked, not push it away, right? But just to receive what our experience is without judgment and without opinion.
Mm-hmm.
If we, that is those moments when I'm able to do that, that's like such a peaceful, gentle way of being in life.
Uh-huh.
And I'm not certainly always like that at all.
No,
but those moments when we can do that. So I think that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Anything that you'd like to wrap up with? Any last?
No, just say some people commented on the film. So if you'd like to see it, it's not out yet, but you can go to awakeningthesoulfilm.com. There's 2 trailers there and information. You can subscribe to get information when it's out, which will be very soon. I'm super excited to release it.
What a nice thing Matt said. This dude is wiser than any 30-year-old I know.
Thank you, Matt.
Yeah, absolutely. Matt, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Zoong and Mia and Matt and Lindsay, hello, and Joe and Brian and Bruce and just everyone. Thank you so much. Crystal, Kristen, thank you. So great to have you here. Sam, thank you.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure. Yeah, absolutely. So let's see. Today's Thursday. Tomorrow is Kim Terranova. No, tomorrow is Parashakti with Our Love. Saturday is Kim Terranova. I Got My Miracle. And then we'll be back Monday. No, wait, today's not Thursday. Today?
Monday. Today's Monday.
Today's Monday.
Yeah.
Today's Monday. Jerry's tomorrow.
Yeah. True.
Check out Jerry's talk tomorrow. And then we have Walking the Path on Thursday, then Parashakti on Friday, Our Love, and I Got My Miracle on Saturday. Thank you all very much.
Thank you so much.
Right. Ciao.
Ciao.